Joining us now with stories trending around the world is Vimbai, Mutinhiri-Ekpenyong. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning. Ayo, looking so colorful, lit up my screen this morning. Rufi Fire, good morning. How are you? Yeah. Yes, I know you're recovering from some sports, some intense sporting activity. I wish you a speedy recovery.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we've got a lot to get through today, so let's get straight into it. But before we begin what's trending, we're going to highlight a great achievement for us. Of course, we're going to highlight the letter of congratulations from the governor of Kaduna State, Uba Sani, who directed to the chairman and editor-in-chief of Arise News and THISDAY Media Group, Prince Nduka Obaigbena, congratulating Obaigbena on the successful launch of the social media platform LekeeLekee, which is now live across the App Store, Google Play, and the web. In the letter, Sani calls LekeeLekee the answer to a long-standing need, as an African-owned ecosystem designed from within our context and not imposed from afar. He also adds in this letter, for Nigeria and indeed for Africa, this is a defining moment. Our youthful population, energetic, creative, and digitally fluent, now has a platform that empowers rather than extracts, that elevates rather than erases. The long-term implications for innovation, civic engagement, entrepreneurship, and cultural confidence are profound. So, like I said, it's a great achievement that we've been able to launch LekeeLekee, available on all of the platforms, downloadable. It's no longer in the beta testing version. It's now open to all. So we continue to congratulate Prince Nduka Obaigbena and encourage you to download the app, create your account, subscribe, and begin interacting. So thank you so much for the commendation from the governor of Kaduna State. Now, let's get into serious business this morning, as President Tinubu has praised the National Security Advisor Ribadu for doing what he described as an excellent job in his capacity as NSA, lauding his commendable qualities. This was expressed during his one-day official visit to Adamawa State yesterday, where he inaugurated major infrastructure projects and held meetings with political leaders, traditional rulers, and other stakeholders. Well, here's what he had to say.
The sound of the soil. Din Ribadu. I must say clearly here that you are doing an excellent job and we are seeing the results. With you, we will defeat the bandits and terrorists.
Well, while the president congratulates the NSA on an excellent job in confronting and tackling insecurity, a disturbing viral video is circulating on social media, and it has exposed what appears to be an organized arms market operating inside a Nigerian town, where suspected terrorists and bandits openly invited herdsmen and other armed groups from surrounding forests to purchase sophisticated weapons, including AK-47 rifles and anti-aircraft guns. In the footage, several armed men are seen inside a room displaying large quantities of weapons and ammunition and boasting about the group's firepower and readiness. This development points to a growing trend in which armed groups embedded within towns actively supply weapons to bandits operating in forests and rural communities. But it doesn't end there. Of course, in a separate development, residents of Woro community, Kayama local government area of Kwara State, still remain in a state of fear and anxiety as families continue to step forward to confirm the identity of their loved ones in a video showing 176 abductees being paraded that went viral. In the recording, the captives were questioned in Hausa about where they were seized. One after another, the women responded that they were abducted from Woro community in Kayama. In a sign of sheer temerity and brazenness, the gunman filming the group accused the government and authorities of downplaying the magnitude of the abduction. He claimed that contrary to official figures suggesting that between 20 and 30 persons were taken, the number of captives was far higher. So, I mean, we have this, I don't know whether to call it an oxymoron, you know, where somebody is getting a pat on the back for doing a great job. But this is the reality for the majority. Let me start with you, Rufai.
I mean, so let's say President Tinubu is praising Ribadu because he put him in there. he will not want to come out to say Nuhu Ribadu has not done a great job because it's going to be an indictment on his government. I mean, because Nuhu Ribadu is going through stuff. But if you're to score Nuhu Ribadu, you can't really score him high as we speak today. Look at that open gun market. Look at Kwara. In all of this, the National Security Advisor, what you will just hear him say is that we will bring back the victims. They bring back the victims without killing the terrorists. This pattern has gone on for so long. I'm probably sure in the case of Kwara now, they will start talking to them. Probably something we exchange hands in about, God knows what. Because they never come to tell us if they pay ransom or not. And it's like that. From Kwara, Niger, 46 people were killed over the weekend in Niger. This was apart from the hundreds of people that were killed in Waro. Mm-hmm. If you remember, they buried corpses. And do you know that the village head that granted us that interview, that told us that it took 10 hours for the security forces to respond when the attack happened? Unfortunately, I'm getting some reports that his wife is there. I just pray it's not true.
He has confirmed, yes, that his wife...
So
he identified
confirmed.
His wife there,
So
yes.
you see, the state of insecurity has become like... there used to be a famous comedian back in the day. I don't know if you ever heard of him. It was called Jaguar in Nigeria. He was fond of saying this word. He said, yam, pepper, scatter, scatter. That means things have gone beyond a reasonable depth of destruction. And that's what is happening. So if the president scores Mr. Nuhu Ribadu high, the results, if you are to score Mr. Nuhu Ribadu as NSA, you cannot give him high marks. You cannot give him high marks because every area you go is inundated with insecurity and we have not gotten a solution to it. God only knows when we're going to get these people back home. Remember, from the church people. In fact, there are so much people in kidnappers' den that were forgotten. I keep talking about the case of the people that were kidnapped in early January in Niger. Some of the people that were kidnapped from Papiri, we've not heard those ones come back home. I can even tell you for free that even Mr. Nuhu Ribadu himself has lost count of those that have been kidnapped under his watch. If I'm lying, they should give us a glossary of those that have been kidnapped under their watch. So insecurity is so high. We are failing the people. Section 14.
Right. We're going to continue speaking on insecurity, and if we can bring it all together. The United States has imposed sanctions on 8 Nigerians over alleged ties to terrorist organizations, including Boko Haram and the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant ISIL, as well as cybercrime-related offensives. The sanctions were announced in a February 10 publication by the United States Department of the Treasury through its Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC. The action was contained in a 3,000-page update of the specially designated nationals and blocked persons list, a reference document detailing individuals and entities subject to U.S. sanctions. Among those designated is Sali Yusuf Adamu, who was convicted for establishing a Boko Haram cell in 2022 after attempting to transfer $782,000 US from Dubai to Nigeria. Also listed were Baba Stan Oluwole Ademulero, Abu Abdullah Umar al-Barnawi, Abu Musab al-Barnawi, Khalid al-Barnawi, Ibrahim Ali al-Hassan, Abu Bilal al-Miniku, and Nnamdi Orson Benson, who was listed under the cybercrime sanctions. So we're continuing to see, pushback now from the international community, because it's no longer just a Nigerian conversation. The United States are now in the equation. They're taking action. Some people might ask, is this action going to translate into anything? And what about our government? Who have they sanctioned? On the lists that have been released, what actions have been taken? I'll come to you, Ayo. Yeah.
All right. So going back to the earlier story and tying it in, I think this is also a further conversation around, as I've often talked about, when the U.S. releases lists like this. We talked about the Magnitsky Act and how that applies sanctions, including visa restrictions, freezing of their assets abroad. When we talk about terrorism is it's across borders. It's not just restricted, because whatever happens when it comes to terrorist activities in one country has impact across. And the U.S. has identified in the recent bill passed by Riley Moore that and his colleague in Parliament, that it has an effect on U.S. national security. These are names that some people might not be familiar with, but a lot of investigation has gone on. When the name of Senator Rabi Musa Kwakonso was released. It was more that it wasn't the only one. We have also had names in the past released as to terrorist financiers. The big question around all of this, the US can take its action to sanction, to ban and all that, is where's the Nigerian leg? Where's the Nigerian action? What are we doing? Why do we keep waiting for the West to determine the course of action, especially when it comes to terrorist activities? We have said it again and again on this table, even citing, previous presidents who have said that if terrorists continues for more than 24 hours, then there's complicity with the state. And this is unfortunately what we see playing out. So that is the inference from this. What I would like to see, though, going forward is at every level, legislature, executive, judiciary, take their own role in fighting terrorism by actually being honest around the people who finance terrorism. Can we now see the Malami list that he's been indicted for part of the charges against him? Can this administration have the political will to take action against those names that are on that list? Nigeria can play a role. It's not just the United States that is the safeguarder of the world. Can we take a serious position and action against terrorism and terrorist financiers in Nigeria?
Absolutely. Dr. Abati, your take on insecurity issues?
Oh, okay. One, it's not enough for government to just parade 176 persons who have been rescued. The point we have made repeatedly on this table is that
kidnapped. These kidnappers that said that they are here.
Okay, the kidnappers.
The government doesn't know that they are here.
Oh, okay. So it speaks to negligence, failure of intelligence. Even when those persons are rescued, at the end of the day, we will not be able to find who the criminals are behind the ordeal. And I think it can be very frustrating for persons who are entitled to the right to the dignity of the human person under the Constitution and who are also expected to be protected by the state under a government that says our job is to make everywhere safe for everybody, whether you are a citizen or a non-citizen. I think stories like this can be very, saddening, exasperating, frustrating. And then again, you talked about Kwara State. Apart from the incident in Waro, yesterday we were talking about how letters were written to 4 communities, Dushingogo, Ira,
and if you can put up those letters, we have them. Yes.
And then we were saying yesterday that, look, don't let this happen. Because these bandits, criminals, operating under the banner of National Terrorist Association, NTA, that was what they said. Is it a registered organization? Is it known to, the authorities, particularly the CAC? And then people just come up with all kinds of things to sabotage the country. I think it's a continuing problem that we have to deal with. However, the point about President Tinubu going to Adamawa and praising Ribadu, well, what do you expect? I mean, this at a time when the National Security Advisor is in the eye of the storm, being challenged by his old friend, now turned adversary, Nasir Rufai. When, your enemy is fighting your friend, who will you stay with? You stay with your friend. And it is not true that the Office of the National Security Advisor does not deserve praise. What we're dealing with is, terrorism, banditry, insurgency on a massive scale. And Ribadu is one of those persons who has been present on the job, whether it is negotiating with the Americans, working out a deal with them, or going after terrorists in other parts of the country, whether it's the Northwest or the Northeast. He has a difficult job. Terrorism has been here, insurgency has been here since about 2002. It's not as if it's the Tinubu administration that created it. It was not Ribadu that created it. But under their watch, we have seen a deliberate effort to continue to take on the challenge. We can only say that, okay, the war is asymmetrical, but they have to continue to make the effort so that Nigerians can see the effort and even the skeptics can say, well, there is progress. It's just like the economy.
Yes, exactly.
Until the people see it and feel it, they will just rely on episodes and reach conclusions that may not reflect, the effort that government is making.
Absolutely. I think everybody wants to make it their lived experience. Well, let's take a look at some pre-election matters. As the pre-election campaign activities begin to gather momentum, Obedience have come together to form a group called the Village Boys Movement, which has surfaced online. This appears to be a counter-group for the public attention garnered by the pro-Tinubu City Boys movement. The movement, which has already established its own website, describes itself as a movement created to empower the grassroots, one village at a time. This comes as backlash has trailed the induction of such figures as Obi Iegbu, better known as Obi Cubana, and Cubana chief priest into the City Boy movement, a move that made Obedience feel that some Igbo businessmen are taking sides with the political elites and are abandoning the common man. Well, Village Boys on social media have been posting to announce their presence, and this is what they have to say.
Our eyes don't open. I say, our eyes don't open for Southeast. This time around, the City Boys movement go jam the Homeboys movement. Don't hang with the Homeboy. That will be the Village Boys now. If we do meeting finish for City, I could if we do meeting finish for City, when I go still come back to village, come jam us here. Now we be the home base now.
He said the village is the home base. They're saying the City Boys will still have to come to the village to campaign. So the Village Boys have all the power. Ayo, what's your take on this Village Boy versus City Boy?
City versus Village Boy. Okay, last week...
Are you a city girl or a village girl? I think Rufai already said that he's a village boy.
I was born... So let me clarify something. And I want to be objective and fair this morning. Last week I'd said that you may say anything about the APC, but in the way that they have mobilized in recent times, you have to say that there's evidence. Unfortunately, the other parties have been belabored with internal wrangling that they don't even have time to put together.
They blame the APC.
Yeah, they do. Whatever the reason
is,
PDP is trying to sort out which one is the real one, which is not real, which was convention or area or party, like we call it, or the Labour Party is in court. So they don't even have time to have a coordinated movement in this way. The Obedient movement, don't forget, do not belong to a particular political party. It's a movement engineered by the young people in Nigeria based on some of the things that they've seen and in support of one particular candidate in the last election. It has now evolved. And to be fair, they move with the candidate wherever he goes. So you can't even call that a particular party's, movement. It's an organic movement. The City Boy movement have also said that, they made a lot of noise. They've gotten very generous donations from some state governments, from bosses being donated, high-profile people being announced as the ambassadors, some of them questionable.
Someone was even saying there was Ministry of Youth logo on their posters.
I mean, we had to question. Now I emphasize from state government which money was used to fund some of these buses that were given to the City Boy movement. But the City Boy, the name is not because it's for city people. Just to mention that it is that the fact that the moniker is often associated with the president, based on the fact that he's said to be the father of modern Lagos, the architect of the Grand Master Plan, and so on. So hence the City Boy, not just that it's for city boys. But the Village Boys have now come out to say that we are the ones in charge. Now, the difference is that will they have access to the amount of resource that the City Boy movement has, based on the fact that the APC controls at least 30 states currently in terms of governors in the state. But what we must clearly emphasize is that let state resources not be used for any movement. Let every movement be based on people's personal convictions and personal pockets, including the Village Boy movement. And I must give kudos to the Village Boy movement, promoters, because it is people who are bringing it, and that's how some of grassroots people are bringing their 1 naira here, 50 naira here, 200 naira here. That's what we want to see in the political space in Nigeria, a rich conversation around and differences in parties that people can have, a variety of choices and make choices based on who best fits their ideology or what they deem as people who can lead them to the promised land in Nigeria. So let all the movements come up. But again, key point is the City Boy movement should not be funded with state resources as meant for everybody. The Village Boy movement, the same thing. But everybody has a right to choose, and let us have an elaborate and deep conversation when it comes to the elections in 2027, and may the best man win based on the people's choices.
The City Boy movement was established in 2022, ahead of the 2023 election, to support basically President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And it has since then evolved into an organization. It's elite finance, it's elite backed, it's elite resource. And it exists in 774 local governments. So what you find, therefore, is that it's the civil society equivalent of the governors of 31 states. It's 31 states that have dissolved into the APC. And then you have in the 774 local governments, the grassroots movement championed by the president's son, that's Sheyi Tinubu. So it's a grassroots organization, and they are well organized. But the village boy movement emerged among those who are opposed to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Their area of operation is largely the internet. They don't have any financing that you can say is as structured as that of the city movement. They are driven mostly by enthusiasm. It is a volunteer movement. And then it is peopled mostly by the obedience, the obedient philosophy, if you define it. So, but the INEC, having said, okay, now there is an election timetable, there is a schedule of activities, you must always expect that if you have this side, you will always have that side. And I think it's good for democracy that all opinions, all shades of opinions are allowed to play.
Rufai, please, very quickly. We have an important story that we need to...
You see, there's a lot of delusion in Nigerian politics. And the number one delusion is that people think money is everything. And when people start to espouse this delusion, I look at them and I laugh. Too much delusion. Secondly, there's a lot of delusion when people think that what they ought to tackle, if they don't tackle it, elections will go as planned. They think they have to tackle, rather than talking about movement or no movement. It's the question I asked Senator Ned Damaswe today. Will IRF be justiciable? See, if you can't answer that question, we are just deluding ourselves. It's the delusion that will now make it obvious when a glitch happens again in 2027 and they manipulate the system. And why I deliberately talked about money? Because, you see, we all saw how money failed in the last election. Why we are calling for transparency, because we know one too many times, money also fails.
Very valid
It
point.
is the pain of the Nigerian people that aroused people to vote. They shared money during the last election. Didn't they share money? But money failed. The people spoke. So for people that think money is everything, they should continue the delusion. We'll see them.
We just want the people
irony
to speak.
is that the city boys are the ones going to feed the village boys.
Well, we're going to...
That's the irony.
I think it's a debate that we're going to continue to have.
You saw the representative of the village boys.
We're going to continue to have that. So I think at the end of the day...
the city boys will feed them.
They will feed them. They will eat and go and have the strength to go and vote for who they want to vote for.
The village boys will also argue that they are self-sustaining hustlers. They're self-sustaining hustlers who are also figuring out how to make things come together. So I think it's not, I don't think they're charity cases. I think they are people who are doing what they can to make ends meet. But let's turn our attention to South Africa, where 3 suspects have appeared in the Pretoria Magistrates Court in South Africa over the brutal murder of 22-year-old Nigerian student Isaac David Satlat, who was killed whilst on duty at his part-time job as an e-hailing driver. Isaac, who was an automotive engineering student, was due to graduate next month. Gruesome footage from Isaac's dash camera documents the moment he innocently picked up the passengers who turned to assailants as he struggled to control the vehicle whilst being attacked. I do issue a viewer's discretion here, as the footage is a little bit disturbing. He was strangled and he was dragged to the back seat of the vehicle where he was killed. Protesters gathered outside the court yesterday as the suspect appeared, demanding that they be denied bail. But sadly, his family is crying out for assistance. They need help to repatriate his remains to Nigeria.
He just went to hustle to become a president, irresponsible president. This is quite unacceptable. It shouldn't happen to anybody. It shouldn't happen to anybody.
This is such a tragic story. A young man, in South Africa, went there to try and get his, to further his studies, got a part-time job with an e-hailing service, and this is how he met his demise. Very, very painful story, Ayo.
Okay. Just on this story, we've often talked about xenophobia in South Africa and in linking that to relations with Nigeria, and we keep going back to the history, just in the spirit of the fact that we are one, that even during the struggle and the fight against apartheid, Nigeria played quite a critical role in that. I say that to say that it is very unnecessary to see, because this is not the first time we've heard of needless and unnecessary deaths that could only be said to be driven by xenophobia, where someone, as you've described, has gone abroad to make a living for, at a chance of bettering his life and to make a living for himself, meets death in the place of work. This is where some things must, number one, of course, the law must take its course. I'm glad that some suspects have been, apprehended. But beyond that is also diplomatic conversations to ensure that we prevent incidents like this from happening. We don't want to have just a cause and effect. We want to have a prevention. What can we do to make the relationship in these countries and to ensure that foreigners, because it's not just Nigerians, foreigners who go to make a life in South Africa legally, even illegally in some instances, have at least a decent chance at life and do not have to meet their death in such a manner. South African authorities have a duty to ensure that if found guilty, they face the full wrath of the law, and that I do believe that even in the interest of the driver, they should bear the responsibility for repatriating his body back home, just as a way of showing some sort of good faith between both countries. It's very sad, and I hope that the Nigerian side can protect our people who live abroad to make a living.
Yes, I understand NIDCOM has also weighed into the issue, and at this point I just hope that everybody can come together to bring his remains home so that his family can receive some closure. May his soul rest in peace. All right, we'll take our next story now from the Senate, where in a dramatic turn of events caught on camera, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan openly pushed back on what she's calling attempts to sideline her from the Senate Committee on the North Central Development Commission, headed by Senator Titus Zam. On Monday, Akpoti-Uduaghan stormed the office of the committee chairman in the company of her legislative and security aides to seek clarification. Tensions quickly escalated in a moment that has been shared widely on social media that shows verbal and physical altercations that ensued in the office. Here's how it went down.
I will not tolerate that. 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 No, please, you guys should call the security office. Let's call everybody. I need this to be resolved today. No. Give us which time. It will never happen that I will not be undermined. No, you guys, no. This place, what is my phone? Why did you do that?
Well, the situation was eventually brought under control by the NAS security officials, but Akpoti-Uduaghan has described this development as another example of what she has called recurrent marginalization in the Senate. Rufai, we continue to see altercations involving Senator Natasha time and time again. This one about the Senate committee on her own region, which is North Central. Your take on this?
And in all this regard, you continue to see how people try to suppress the voice of that woman. That's just it. Natasha brings accountability to the table. they were trying to have this meeting behind her. And one will have thought, I think there are nomination criteria. I don't know how the nominator will get, to be able to oversight the Development Commission and all of that. But by some measure, you would have expected her to be there, if not for anything, for female representation even on the table. Then she went to talk to Titus Zam, and in talking about it, I think they wanted to take evidence of what was going on. Then his people came in and they disrupted them from recording, and there was an altercation back and forth. Look at the last case. she had something to say on the committee, they wouldn't let her speak. Look at what she went through last year. So you can see for a country that says, oh, we respect women and all of that, see what she's had to go through. See all of what she's had to go through. So it speaks volumes of the system, and it speaks about the shenanigan that goes on in the Senate. I mean, no matter how much you try to extricate the Senate and all of that, this woman has constantly, been standing up tall. And that's why this day, we gave her an award the other day for an affirmation of what she stands for.
Well, this is not sexist. It's not about what Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, senator, stands for. The court has ruled severally that the National Assembly has the right to make its own rules, and that those rules are sacrosanct. The Court of Appeal just said so most recently. Now, last week, it was Senator Ndubueze, I think at the Committee on Steel Development. Yes. She had an issue because she was overruled by the chairman of the party, of the committee. Last year, it was Senator Akpabio over sitting arrangement. She insisting she would choose where she would sit. In the Ndubueze committee, she wanted to overrule the chairman. The chairman banged the gavel. In the case of Senator Titus Sam from Benue North, the senator said she is not a member of the committee. You don't go to a committee that you don't belong to. And then you came after, and then you created that scene. One of the laws of power, 48 laws of power, is that you do not isolate yourself. If you're a member of a community, you obey the rules. Nobody is above the rules. And if you isolate yourself, you begin to have this kind of a conflict. Yeah. So, but she says she will go to court again. Yes. Will she go there and create her own rules for our committee seat? That is the question, not sexism.
Well, there are several conversations to be had, but unfortunately, we have to keep the conversation going. We are going to deepen this conversation tomorrow because we have important breaking news now under milestones.
Down Natasha Akpoti on that committee last week.
In this particular
case. What changed today? You
No, you look at it. If you are not a member of a committee, if you are not a member of committee, you cannot say the committee must report to you.
Okay.
No, this is basic.
I think it's a debate.
Basic process.
It's a debate that several people continue to have, and they keep asking who is really at fault in this. And I think the conversation will continue to move forward. But we need to move on to our milestones now, where today we're remembering the life of Robert Duvall, a Hollywood legend and Oscar-winning actor whose death at 95 years old was announced in a statement on behalf of his wife, Luciana Pedraza, on Sunday. Well, the statement read in part that for each role, Bob gave everything to his characters and to the truth of the human spirit they represented. Duvall was born in 1931 in San Diego, later moving to New York to study acting while working at the post office to make ends meet. His on-screen debut came in 1963, starring in the film adaptation of the American classic To Kill a Mockingbird, where he played Boo Radley. Throughout his 6-decade career, he was known for tough guy roles, including the mafia consigliere or advisor in The Godfather Parts 1 and 2, as well as Apocalypse Now. He was nominated for 7 Oscars, winning the award for Best Actor in 1983 in the film Tender Mercies. And now to some breaking news that we have just received. U.S. civil rights leader Jesse Jackson has died at the age of 84. He died this morning. In a statement from the family, they said that, in part, his unwavering commitment to justice, equality, and human rights helped shake a global movement for freedom and dignity. Jackson is known for being at the forefront of the civil rights movement alongside Martin Luther King Jr. in the 60s. He was also a candidate for the Democratic Party's presidential nomination in 1984 and 1988. May his soul rest in peace. Very tragic news, and unfortunately there's no time for us to speak on it. Hopefully we'll do so tomorrow and give him a befitting memorial on Milestones. Thank you so much for today.